get in their face, take the time away from him, and even the best players in the world, like Nathan Cleary, they don't play well on the back foot.
I think the Brisbane game at Suncorp, perhaps I've got my maroon and gold tinted glasses on here, but I felt that we were certainly the better side, and maybe the score flattered the Warriors a little bit.
Well, you're lucky you've got Hunt there.
Yeah.
It's taken him a couple of weeks, like any player does, to come into a new combination. But I feel like he's started to really, grow into that over the past couple of weeks.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
DSPN producer Lachlan Waugh sitting in for Martin Devlin this weekend, next week and the week after, because the bastard is on holiday again. No, Marty, on a well-deserved holiday up in the Northern Hemisphere. Last time I checked Zane, he was in Rome at the Colosseum, so I'd like to think he's actually gone back in time, gone into the Colosseum, and some of that harsh chatter, that big talking that he's done over the years might be coming back to bite him in the arse, maybe.
Yeah, mate, he's flying in style, rides my Gold Elite partner status, so he gets to play VIP in all the lounges along the way, so he's doing all right for himself.
I was there when it was on our World Cup trip to France for the last Rugby World Cup. And I think he and you came up with, devised a plan, essentially, and I remember him saying, if anyone asks, just Zane and I are lovers. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? It's like, well, we've got to get into the Corrie Lounge. What's going on here? So, yeah, thanks to you, Zane. I think Marty and I had a very nice stopover in LA for a good 7 or 8 hours in the Corrie Lounge.
There you go, mate. Free beers, free food. You can't beat it.
Yeah, there was a shower as well. Can't complain. All right, we're talking about the NRL finals. Week 1 of the final series is on this weekend. Tonight we've got the Storm and the Bulldogs. Tomorrow the Warriors and the Panthers, Sharks, Roosters. And then Sunday, my boys, the Broncos, heading down to Canberra to take on the Raiders. First off, I will say, Zane, I'm not the most confident about my team. I do expect Canberra to win, so I'm not going to act like that we're just some world beaters all of a sudden. But let's just start off with the game that everyone here in New Zealand, well, most people in New Zealand are probably caring about the most. The Warriors against the Panthers. And I think it's fair to say, it's been a great year for the Warriors. There's no point trying to sit there and really criticise the way this team has finished the year. The form hasn't been great, but they did play well at the start. They've earned their spot in the top 8. They are 6. They've got a home final for a reason. That's something, as Andrew Webster said a week ago, that there is something to celebrate.
Yeah, mate, I remember our very first chat, me and Marty, right at the beginning of the year before things kicked off, looking at the players you lost, the Tohu Harrises, AFB, Sean Johnson, Marcelo Montoya, Jazz Tavanga. Later on, we lost Dylan Walker. I picked us to finish 6th. I've got to say, I've got the receipts, but that was more hope than anything. And I honestly thought it'd be a development year, which I think it has been, but we've won along the way with a very young, inexperienced forward pack who have learnt to win. They've learnt to grind out. We haven't been blown off the park other than the one game against the Storm. Only game we conceded 40 points, and we won the second half in that. So there's only, I think, 2 or 3 other teams in the entire comp who haven't conceded 40 points or more on more than one occasion, on less than one or less occasions. So we've done pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of games. I think the Brisbane game at Suncorp, perhaps I've got my maroon and gold tinted glasses on here, but I felt that we were certainly the better side, and maybe the score flattered the Warriors a little bit. There was the Penrith game at Mount Smart early this year where they pretty much rolled out a B team and beat you guys pretty handily. So there have been some games where, look, the Warriors have won more than they've lost. I think the record was 14-10. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but there have been some games where it feels perhaps the gap between the Warriors and the best, or teams who could be the best, because I'm not going to get too ahead of myself and say that Brisbane are one of the 2 or 3 best in the comp, but there's a little bit of a gap there between you guys and the elite on when they are on form, if that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is I don't know, if you look at the game we played against the Sharks, if we could replicate that.
That was your best performance, that one.
I mean, that was on par with any top 4 team.
Yeah. But
we haven't been able to replicate that. Maybe the second best was round 2 against Manly. Whereas you look at the likes of your Broncos, their highs and lows have been extreme. Whereas I feel like our highs haven't been overly high and our lows haven't been overly low. I mean, like the game people use the example against the understrength Panthers, we had 8 guys out that game, and 8 of our very significant players out. So it's not like we had a full strength team playing against the absolute B Panthers. So I feel like we've been consistent. And it's probably, I sit back and look at our game plan over the past 3 years, and I think it's very reliant on a X Factor 7 playing in great form. So SJ carried us through 2023. He wasn't able to do that with injury. in 2024. We chopped and changed a bit there. We struggled to unlock our shape out wide. We got Metcalf to do that through his individual brilliance early on in the season. Then we've struggled to replicate that. But over the past couple of weeks, you've seen Tanner Boyd start to run a little bit more with a bit more confidence.
Yeah.
You've seen us put together some genuine shape. Adam Pompey scoring in the left the week before last. Last week, Chan's going in untouched on the right. So we're slowly getting there, but it may be a little bit too late.
Yeah, I didn't like the fact that a lot of fans were really ripping into Tanner Boyd. I don't think he was playing bad. It's a stylistic thing, isn't it? So the way the team was playing, as you've talked about there with Luke Metcalf, it impacts the team differently to Tanner Boyd. So I don't know if you're a whole lot worse with Tanner Boyd.
Yeah, well, I think you've got to realise that Luke Metcalf is a completely different player.
Yeah.
His individual brilliance, his speed are what makes him different. Tanner Boyd was not our first choice halfback. How many other players in the comp can bring a player in of their level? You're lucky you've got Hunt there.
Yeah.
It's taken him a couple of weeks, like any player does, to come into a new combination. But I feel like he started to really, grow into that over the past couple of weeks. So this game itself, I think the biggest factor for me is finals experience. Those guys know how to peak when it comes to the finals. Is this a different beast in 2025? Who knows? I went through the stats to prepare for my preview, and we're not overly different. Things like they score 4.1 tries a game, we score 3.8. They've got more running meters than us. We've got more post-contact meters than us. We have a higher completion. We have the same tackle efficiency. The big difference is they score 24 points and concede 19.5. We score 21.5 and concede 20. So it shows they are better than us. But I think their complete highest upside is higher than ours at the moment. And that's not a dig on the Warriors. That's a dig on the fact that we're 3 years into our pathway and they're 8 or 9 years into their journey building their depth. So I'm not overly pessimistic, but I don't think we get our asses kicked.
No. I guess it depends, and I'm quoting Tony Kemp, who talked about this earlier in the week, he's talking about the grind with Penrith. You've got to take it to them physically and in the middle of the park, and you've just got to stay in the contest and stay in the fight, and it's physical, and it's hard on the body, and it hurts, which is these guys' jobs. They just run into each other every week. It's what they do, but you've just got to stay on that grind. And even if you do get a bit of an edge, say in the middle of the park, or if your forwards do, I guess, have an advantage in that physical contact, you've then got Nathan Cleary, who's just going to absolutely hammer you with kicks, and he's got his edges as well who are chasing, who are superb at that. So it's almost this flow-on effect that, well, even if that goes your way, you've got to hope that this goes your way. And if that doesn't go your way, well, then don't even worry about that. But if that does, that might not go your way. So it's almost like a mental battle, isn't it? Staying in there physically and just mentally continuing with that. If you're the Warriors, if you're those big forwards that they have, Fisher Harris, Moratania Corday, all those guys, you've got to stay in that physical battle and just trust that results will come if you just do these basic parts right.
I mean, I'll quote Gus Gould, mate. He's got no shares in this, but on 2 or 3 occasions this year, he said that he's spoken to opposition players.
Yeah, I've seen those videos.
Who are the toughest team to play? The Warriors. They said they give you nothing, they smash you hard. So the key will be, you look at the games, round 2 against Manly is a classic example. You've got an absolute genius and experienced player in DCE, and then you've got one of the best attacking weapons in Turbo. Win the middle, get in their face, take the time away from him, and even the best players in the world, like Nathan Cleary, they don't play well on the back foot. The problem is that guy has that, 10 minutes in him, like we saw in the grand final last year, where he can just take it away from you. But all you can do is just keep on putting him on the back foot and play like this is your lives depend on it for 80 minutes. They made 12 errors last week. They've consistently made errors. We've seen errors from guys, that you wouldn't normally see. If they do that again and give us the ball, who knows?
It's a big if, though, isn't it?
One key thing for me.
It's a big if.
Yeah, but they've got to say the same for us, right? If the Warriors collapse like they normally do, if they give us piggyback penalties, every game in these finals, there's ifs.
Yeah, I guess with you guys, those ifs maybe are a little bit more solid because, again, looking at it objectively, the form over the last couple of months has not been great at all. And I watched most of the loss to Manly last weekend. I thought it was, both sides were pretty ordinary. It was one of the worst games of footy all year. But the Warriors' defensive resilience that I've been pretty complimentary of the fact this team is smart in how they play. Defensively, they don't break down too much at all. They look after the ball. They complete their sets. They're a smart team. They seem to be a really well-drilled team. But last week, there was the second try that Manly scored where Fisher Harris just got bumped off by a little dummy half. And there was the try that Luke Brooks scored where he just... arms flailing from the Warriors. I guess that's got to be one of the most concerning things is that your defensive resilience has dropped. But those ifs, I mean... you're not heading into the finals with good form, essentially.
Yeah, but I mean, you could argue the Bulldogs are probably just as bad, and with all the stupid changes they've made. So, look, I'm not going to, like I said, sit here and argue that I think that the Warriors are in better form and are more likely to win than the Panthers. But we conceded, 20-odd points in that game where we led in 3 really quick tries, easy tries. But in years gone by, even last season, that would have blown out. We got it back to 1 point, which shows that we do have that resilience, even if we get on the back foot. The difference is, I guess, the utter blind faith that that constant success for the Panthers will give them. They will be relentless. They won't break easily like a lot of other teams who start to get on the back foot. Even other teams in the top 4 or top 8, they haven't had that consistent success, so they won't have the belief of the Panthers, and that's one thing I worry about. But on the other side, what I don't believe we deal with well is blistering pace, line breaks from out 50 metres out. We struggle to defend those. That's not the Panthers. So in some ways, I wouldn't have been confident going into any of these games against the top 8 sides. Probably the Sharks, because we've got it over them. Maybe, I don't know. But the other sides, if you look at the Raiders, if you look at Melbourne, they've all got blistering pace. They can make line breaks from anywhere, and that's what we've struggled against. That's not the Panthers. So I feel like they are a reasonable matchup if you take the history out of it.
Zane, a couple of more Warriors-based questions or centric questions. Is there more confidence in this Warriors team being able to get a job done? And they've been on a bit of a journey the last couple of years. You look at 2023 was, just a wonderful occasion for the club. But I got to admit, there was just this great buzz around Auckland in particular when the Warriors were winning. The whole city was just pumping. It felt. Obviously, last year didn't go to plan. There was a lot of expectation. One thing I liked that Andrew Webster said, and he said it on this podcast at the start of the year, is that he learned a lot about himself, how things didn't go to plan last year, selections, training, whatever. He learned a fair bit about the whole coaching job, the head coaching job. And obviously some of those lessons that he took have probably paid off in the fact that this club is back in the top 8 in a year where not many people expected them to be in the top 8. And if you're to compare all the teams in the competition, all 17 clubs, and you rated their roster man for man, I think a lot of people, I would be one of them, would not have the Warriors in the top 8 if you just purely based it on the quality of their roster. So they have there's been this wave motion the last few years, but they're back in this position, and it feels as though, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing you would agree, that what has gone on the last couple of years, the wins, the losses, the highs and the lows, all sort of comes together. And when you've got this home final against the 4-time defending premiers, you're probably as well prepared as you can be compared to, say, 2 years ago. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I guess so. And again, I don't know. I mean, you can probably tell that I'm not this guy who's the same guy I was in 2023, right? I think in 2023, that was completely unexpected. I never thought we'd have that success in the first year. The Warriors hadn't felt that kind of momentum for a very long time. So you're kind of living a dream. Now I think, it's reality. We've seen the ups and downs. I can completely acknowledge our forward pack, I think, matches with any club in the comp, but our backs, man for man, we don't have the X factor. We don't have the top 2 or 3 players in their position anywhere other than maybe arguably Roger. So you've got to be realistic about that. So looking at how we line up this weekend, I don't expect us to win, if I'm completely honest. I'm hopeful we can compete, and I dream that we can win is how I describe it. And I'm more excited about the long term. And I know Marty always gives me shit about this. It's about winning now. It's like, well, you gave me the opportunity to get to a grand final now and lose, or continue to build this momentum where we create a team that's in the top 8 every year competing. I would probably take that, because I don't like the massive downs that we have along the way. And I think Webby's building to eliminate those from us. Yeah,
and I actually agree with that, and I disagree with my host. I agree with it if it's the All Blacks, for example, because it's a team that there is just an embedded expectation in this country that the All Blacks win. With the Warriors, this is a club that's been to 2 grand finals since they were established in 1995, and in terms of the finals appearances, I don't know the exact number. I would imagine it's around 6 or 7 in that period. But if you go from like 2012 up until last season, for example, take up this year, I think there's only 2 finals appearances in about 12 or 13 years there. So the Warriors aren't a club that, on the field and in terms of trophies and championships and all that stuff, they don't have that sort of success. But I agree with you. Like Parramatta went to the grand final in 2022, but outside of that 1 year, they had a few finals appearances. But look at where they are now. They're rebuilding. And granted, they look good. They look good the second half of the season. But that sort of counts for nothing. Whereas if you can actually build and get into the finals continuously, it's all like Cronulla are doing that now. As much as we sort of bag them that they get to the finals and they tend to underperform, it feels. At least they're there every year. They're in the conversation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I want. And I look at the pathways, having watched every game of every one of our juniors in New South Wales Cup side. When you've got the Harold Matts winning every year, when you've got a Cup side that has dominated that competition with so many changes every week, you've got to be excited about the long-term future of the club, particularly the fact that we've got these really fast X-Factor young backs coming through that are maybe 12 to 18 months away. So that's what excites me. And this year, they exceeded my expectations. Even though I picked them 6, that was a dream. To get there tomorrow night, compete, be in the fight, and show that we were meant to be there and we're better than the other 8 teams who are not there. That's my main expectation, for them to walk away with confidence, say, you know what? Another year behind us, another pre-season, a couple of new guys coming in. We've got these Panthers next time in a finals game. That to me is progression.
Zane, you've already given me a prediction pretty much saying that you think Penrith will win. Give me a margin.
Well, if you look at what have we had the past 3 years, 18-6 they won, 32-6 they blew us away once. We won the next one 20-22. They won 28-18. So it's been pretty close. I think it'll be hopefully within 12 points.
All right, the other 3 games we've got on. One is tonight, Melbourne against the Dogs. Who's winning this one?
Oh, Melbourne by.
Melbourne. Even with they're missing the Dogs, 3 key players.
Mate, the Dogs have just made so many odd changes that have impacted their attack. To leave a guy like Reid Marnie out of there, who's got that, to me, he feels like a guy like Jazz used to be for the Warriors, or you got Turbo or whatever, an energy player that really gets those guys up, even though he's a bit of an odd character. It's got to have an impact on the guys that he's come along with to just cut him.
Well, yeah, and he's the captain, isn't he? Or he has been the captain for the most part of the last few years for the Dogs, yeah.
That they don't have the experience in the finals. Bellyache he's going to find a way to outcoach Serraldo, I think. I don't believe they've got the forward pack to match Melbourne. I don't know how they compete with Coates out wide. He's just a machine. I think he's worth, at least one try that you're up against it. And they don't lose in Melbourne.
No, they don't. And the one thing, I said this to Tony Kemp on Tuesday, that Craig Bellamy does every single year, whether it's a bloke who's injured or whether it's someone that they've lost who's just gone to another club or retired or whatever, he picks out a bunch of no-names, puts them into the team, and then they turn into absolute stars. I mean, Jerome Hughes was a reserve fullback, was seen as the next fullback after Billy Slater. I remember he started there in 2019. And then now he's turned into one of the best halfbacks in the game. I mean, how does that happen? It's incredible. Yeah,
so I can't see anything else other than a Storm victory, to be honest. I mean, if Munster went down and couldn't play, or Grant couldn't play, they might be screwed. But with those two,
if Grant gets injured or something, then just count them out. Maybe. The Sharks against the Roosters tomorrow night. I really like this Roosters team. This game's obviously after the Warriors-Panthers game. I think they are seriously dangerous. Obviously, they're quite a young side because they've had the sort of transition period into these younger players, but they've still got a lot of those high-quality rep players they've had over the last sort of decade or so. But I actually would lean towards a Roosters win here, but maybe that's because I just have liked their trajectory this year because everyone gave them a lot of smack at the start of the year. Sharks, they haven't been that consistent. You've got AFB, he's a massive part of their forward pack. When you've got the forwards that they've got at the East that can match him, Nafahu White and Lendu and the like. So I think they can win the forward battle, and then they've got the X factor out wide,
Is Marky Marks playing, eh?
Mm.
If he's playing, you've got a guy there. How do you control his X factor and the like? And Nico Hines, maybe he surprises me, but that guy's yet to step up
In big
in a
games.
finals game
Yeah.
and really dominate. So I think the East get it done.
Yep. By the way, Adam Fanua-Blake, I think a lot of Warriors fans were a bit nervous when he it was announced he was leaving last year. Oh gosh, we're losing a big grunter in the middle. You guys haven't really missed him, have you?
I mean, you can't deny that we could have used him without Mitch Barnett being there. But
Yeah.
if we had Mitch there, I don't think we would have missed him at all. And I think that's proof in the pudding that we have more post-contact meters than the Sharks. We have more post-contact meters than the Panthers. Second in the comp. No one would have predicted that. Everyone said, how are you going to get momentum this year? Well, we've just spread the load.
Mm.
Jackson Ford, mate, who would have thought? What a machine.
Yeah, and he's been a big loss the last part of the season as well. All right, Canberra
Really nice
against
and fresh.
Canberra against Brisbane on Sunday. This is the last of the 4 finals games this weekend. Look, just quickly, I'll give you a good 20, 30 seconds here. I am so I've never felt as confident about this particular Brisbane team as after that Storm win last week, because it was the first time that we'd actually taken the contest to a premiership heavyweight. We'd played damn well, we were the better side, and Reece Walsh for the first time all season did 5 or 6 brilliant things and then didn't make any mistakes, because he always makes mistakes mixed in with the highlights of his game. And saying all of that, I think Canberra have been just such a great side to watch this year. It's easy to say, oh, well, we didn't think they'd be in the finals. Oh, well, they haven't really been that consistent under Ricky Stewart since he took over as coach. I don't really think a lot of that really matters. They've looked great all year. There's no reason to think they won't win this. There's a shorter turnaround, but they've still got in 7 days to prepare for this game. I think Canberra win this. What do you think?
They're interesting, right? The way they played against us in Vegas, I thought there's no way they're going to sustain that. It's a one-off. But they've continued to deliver it. But again, they've had their slip-ups along the way that you wouldn't have expected. I'm not that confident that you're going to lose as you are, to be honest. I think, like you said, that what happened last week, if you can get Walsh to play with confidence, not stupidity, not make the errors, I don't think they've got that same level of individual X factor there. If you look at guys like Timoko, he's one of the most powerful runners there. He's the X factor. Staggs counters him, 1 for 1. And I think I just feel like the Broncos have got more X factor across the park, and I think your forwards are more than capable of cancelling them out, particularly if Big Papa can't play. So if I was leaning anyway, I'm putting money on the Broncos. Other than the fact they're travelling, I think I'd lean towards putting my money if I had to on the Broncos.
Go on. Thank you, Zane. Now my confidence and my excitement's gone up. So your winners this weekend then, you've got the Storm and the Broncos getting the week off and hosting the preliminary finals, and then that would mean Penrith play the Dogs, and that would mean that Cronulla take on Canberra, right?
Yep. So
who have you got winning those?
You're lucky in the fact you don't have to play Penrith until a grand final.
I know. Oh gosh. If we come up against them at any stage in the finals, I'm not watching it, and I might even move towns. I might actually move further away from Australia, even though I'm not even in Australia. I want to be as far away from a Penrith Brisbane matchup as possible. I don't want to do it.
I think if they're fit, I reckon the Panthers style can get you guys in a grand final. They've lost a lot of games, like those games building up to these finals they lost. I reckon they ticked boxes and they thought, we got what we needed out of that. We know why we didn't get up over them. We don't really care. We didn't play 110% because we want to preserve our bodies, and they'll just take it up a level now. And I think it's nothing for them to go through and win this whole thing, but I do think it could well be a Broncos Panthers final.
If Brisbane win this weekend, Canberra, Cronulla would then have to play the Storm, and the Panthers Dogs would have to play Brisbane. I think the only way it works is if Brisbane lose to Canberra, because then Brisbane could beat Melbourne, for example, or the Dogs in the preliminary finals, and then the Panthers would beat the Raiders, and then they'd meet. But there's a lot of things that have to go on there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's such a lottery from here on in. I think it comes down to penalties, the bounces of the ball. Reece Walsh, does he get away with gridiron passes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there will be one shock loss this weekend. I think that people will be surprised, and it could well be. I mean, those who think that the Raiders are undefeatable in Raider Town, I think that could be it. And I think it could be a comfortable win to the Broncos, to be honest, if they switch on.
DSPN.